May 17, 2018. Emma Pearson was 7 years old when she disappeared from Westlake Community Park on a sunny Thursday afternoon. Her mother, Diane, had taken her and her younger brother, Tyler, to the playground after school. It was their usual routine. Tyler would play in the sandbox while Emma, more adventurous, would head for the swings and monkey bars. "Stay where I can see you," Diane reminded Emma, as she always did. Emma had nodded, her blonde ponytail bobbing, the handmade friendship bracelet on her wrist. Purple and green threads woven together by her best friend Lily, catching the sunlight as she ran toward the swings. Diane sat on a bench near the sandbox, alternating between watching Tyler build castles and checking her phone for work emails. It was a typical spring day in the small town of Millfield, Connecticut. Other children played nearby, their mothers and babysitters chatting on benches or pushing younger siblings on swings. At 4:37 p.m., Diane looked up from her phone to check on Emma. The swings were empty. She scanned the playground, expecting to see her daughter on the slide or climbing structure. Nothing. "Emma?" she called, standing up. No response. Tyler looked up from his sandcastle. "Where's Emmy?" "I'm not sure, sweetie. Stay right here." Diane's heart rate quickened as she circled the playground, checking behind a large oak tree where kids sometimes played hide-and-seek. She approached a group of mothers near the picnic tables. "Have you seen my daughter?" Blonde hair in a ponytail, pink t-shirt, denim shorts. They hadn't. One mother offered to help search, while another stayed with Tyler. Within minutes, every adult at the playground was calling Emma's name, checking bathrooms, looking under slides and behind bushes. At 4:52 p.m., Diane called 911, her voice cracking as she reported her daughter missing. By 5:15, police officers had arrived and cordoned off the park. They interviewed everyone present, but no one had noticed Emma leaving or being taken. No one had seen any suspicious individuals. One moment, a little girl was playing on the swings, and the next, she was gone. The search expanded throughout the evening and into the night. Police dogs tracked Emma's scent from the swings to the parking lot, where the trail abruptly ended. Security cameras from nearby businesses were checked, but none had a clear view of the park entrance. An Amber Alert was issued. Volunteers combed the surrounding neighborhoods, woods, and creek beds. Days turned into weeks. Emma's school photo appeared on flyers throughout town, on local news broadcasts, and eventually on national missing children websites. Diane and her husband Mark, who had been at work when Emma disappeared, gave tearful interviews pleading for information. The case drew attention from missing children advocacy groups and amateur sleuths online, who combed through every detail that Thursday afternoon. But no credible leads emerged. No ransom demands came. No suspicious individuals were identified. Emma Pearson had simply vanished, leaving behind only a devastated family and a community in shock. As the one-year anniversary approached, the Millfield Police Department reclassified Emma's case from active to cold. Detective Lucas Rivera, who had led the investigation, promised the Pearsons he would never stop looking. But with no new evidence and dwindling resources, the search for Emma gradually faded from public attention. Life in Millfield reluctantly returned to normal, for everyone except the Pearsons, who remained suspended in the terrible limbo of not knowing what had happened to their daughter. If you're still watching, it's because you understand how quickly life can change. One moment a child is laughing on a swing, and the next, she's gone without a trace. Before we continue, click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another investigation from Gone Cold. We're dedicated to telling the stories others have forgotten, stories that still deserve answers. And if you believe Emma's story needs to stay alive in people's minds, tap the like button now. It helps us reach more viewers and keep the search alive. June 23rd, 2023 Westlake Community Center hadn't been renovated since the early 1990s. The aging building, adjacent to the park where Emma Pearson had disappeared, housed meeting rooms, a small library, and a community pool. In the basement were locker rooms, separate facilities for men, women, and families that served the pool area. The center was scheduled for a major overhaul beginning in July. Construction crews had already begun preliminary work, marking utilities and preparing the site. Mario Vasquez, the the facility manager for 15 years, was tasked with clearing out the long-term storage lockers in the basement before demolition began. Most of these lockers were rented annually by community members who used the pool regularly. A few, however, had been abandoned over the years, their content forgotten, their rental fees unpaid. The center's policy was to keep these lockers sealed for 2 years, then dispose of the contents if no one claimed them. Mario worked methodically, clipboard in hand, checking locker numbers against his list of paid rentals. The women's locker room contained 12 long-term storage lockers. 10 were current. One had been abandoned 3 years ago, and another, Locker 27, had been without a paying renter for nearly 5 years. Using his master key, Mario opened the abandoned lockers. The first contained only a moldy towel and a pair of flip-flops, which he promptly threw away. He then moved to Locker 27, inserted his key, and pulled open the metal door. Inside was a small blue backpack, the kind elementary school children might use. Mario frowned, setting his clipboard aside. Who would abandon a child's backpack? He lifted it out, surprised by how light it felt. As he set it on the bench, something caught his eye, a small item that had fallen from the backpack onto the locker floor. Mario bent down to pick it up. It was a handmade bracelet, woven from purple and green threads, slightly dirty but otherwise intact. Nothing remarkable about it, just the kind of friendship bracelet kids make at summer camp or during arts and crafts. He slipped the bracelet into the backpack's front pocket and unzipped the main compartment. Inside was a child's water bottle with faded unicorn stickers, a small notebook with Emma P. written on the cover in careful handwriting, and a folded piece of paper that turned out to be a homework assignment dated May 17, 2018. Mario froze, the paper trembling in his hand. The name, the date, it couldn't be a coincidence. Everyone in Millfield remembered Emma Pearson's disappearance. Her photo had hung in the community center lobby for years. The smiling blonde girl who had vanished from the playground. The date on the homework assignment was the very day she disappeared. With shaking hands, Mario zipped the backpack closed and immediately called the police. Detective Lucas Rivera, now a lieutenant, arrived within 20 minutes. Though other cases had come and gone, Emma Pearson's file had never been far from his desk. When the call came in about a possible piece of evidence, he drove to the community center himself, his heart racing with the first genuine lead in 5 years. Rivera photographed the locker and its contents before carefully placing the backpack in an evidence bag. He questioned Mario extensively about who had access to the lockers, how they were assigned, and whether any security cameras monitored the area. These long-term lockers, they're rented how? Rivera asked. In person at the front desk, Mario explained. You fill out a form with your name, address, phone number, pay the annual fee in cash or card. And Locker 27? When was it last rented? Mario consulted his records. It was paid for until August 2018. Rented in February that year by a... He squinted at the faded form, Sarah Jenkins. But we never had a record of her before or since. And she never came to empty it when the rental expired. Did you try to contact her? Yes, but the phone number didn't work, and mail to the address was returned as undeliverable. Mario hesitated. Lieutenant, I've worked here 15 years. I don't remember any Sarah Jenkins as a regular. Rivera nodded grimly. A fake name. A locker rented 3 months before Emma's disappearance, abandoned immediately after. And inside, Emma's belongings. Belongings she hadn't been carrying when she disappeared from the playground. Someone had planned this. Someone had taken Emma's things and hidden them where they were unlikely to be found. The question was why, and more importantly, what had they done with Emma herself? Chapter 3. The investigation rekindled. The news broke the following morning. New evidence in Emma Pearson disappearance. Local media camped outside the Pearson home, where Mark and Diane, now divorced but united in their ongoing anguish, issued a brief statement asking for privacy. Behind the scenes, the investigation had roared back to life. The backpack and its contents were being processed for DNA and fingerprints. The rental form for Locker 27 was analyzed for handwriting and any trace evidence. Security footage from the community center, what little existed from 2018, was re-examined for anyone who might be Sarah Jenkins. Lieutenant Rivera assembled a task force dedicated to reopen case, including officers who had worked the original investigation and fresh detectives who might see what others had missed. They gathered in the conference room at Millfield Police Department, the walls covered with timeline charts, photographs, and maps. "The backpack gives us our first solid timeline revision," Rivera explained, standing before the assembled team. "We know Emma disappeared from the playground at approximately 4:40 p.m. We assumed her abductor took her directly from there, but the backpack suggests she may have been inside the community center at some point. The center would have been busy at that time of day," Detective Sarachin noted. "Swim classes after school, programs. Someone should have noticed a child being coerced or a child in distress. Unless she went willingly," Detective Michael Roscoe suggested. "If she knew the person, trusted them." Rivera nodded. "Exactly. We need to re-interview everyone who was at the center that day. Staff, instructors, regular visitors. Someone saw something." The team dispersed, each with specific assignments. Rivera himself drove to the Pearson home to show Diane the recovered items and gather more information. Diane Pearson had aged beyond her 38 years. Her once vibrant brown hair was streaked with gray, her face lined with the chronic stress of not knowing what had happened to her child. She led Rivera to the living room, where Emma's photo still held the central place on the mantel. "Is it really hers?" she asked as Rivera carefully laid out photographs of the recovered items. "The backpack, the bracelet? We're confirming with DNA testing, but yes, we believe so. Do you recognize these items?" Diane's hand trembled as she reached toward the photo of the bracelet, not quite touching it. Lily made that for her. Purple and green, Emma's favorite colors. She wore it every day. She looked up at Rivera, her eyes desperate with hope and fear. "Does this mean, is she?" "We don't know yet," Rivera said gently, "but it's the first real lead we've had. Can you tell me, was Emma familiar with the community center? Did she go there regularly?" Diane nodded. "She took swimming lessons there every Tuesday and Thursday. The Thursday she disappeared, she brought her backpack to school because she was supposed to go to her lesson after the playground." Her eyes widened with sudden realization. "But I canceled it. She had a dentist appointment the next morning, so I called and rescheduled her lesson. That's why we went to the playground instead." Rivera leaned forward. "Who knew about this change of plans?" "The swim instructor, obviously. My ex-husband. Probably Emma's teacher, since I'd sent a note to school." Diane frowned, thinking. Emma was disappointed about missing her lesson. She might have mentioned it to friends, other parents at the playground. And the swim instructor's name? Brian Collins. He taught all the kids' classes. Rivera made a note, his pulse quickening. A new avenue to explore. Someone would have expected Emma at the community center that day. Someone she knew and trusted. Someone who would have noticed her absence from class. "One more question," Rivera said. "This Sarah Jenkins, the name used to rent the locker, does it mean anything to you? Any connection to your family? To Emma's school? To the community center?" Diane shook her head. "I don't know anyone by that name." As Rivera left the Pearson home, his phone rang. It was the forensics lab. "Lieutenant, we've got partial fingerprints from inside the backpack. Adult male, not in our local system. We're running them through national databases now. And the locker rental form? The handwriting analysis suggests it was deliberately disguised, but likely male based on pressure patterns. The address given was an abandoned property. The phone number belonged to a burner phone purchased with cash." Rivera thanked the technician and hung up, his mind racing. A planned abduction, a careful cover-up, a hidden backpack that might never have been found if not for the renovation. After 5 years of dead ends, they finally had something tangible, evidence that might lead them to what happened to Emma Pearson. What he didn't know was how close they were to the truth, and how devastating that truth would prove to be. Girl vanished from playground. 5 years later, her bracelet is found in an abandoned locker. Chapter 4. The instructor, Lieutenant Rivera, sat across from Brian Collins in interview room B at the Millfield Police Department. now 34. Collins had left the community center 3 years ago and currently taught physical education at Millfield High School. His personnel file showed no complaints or disciplinary actions. His background check was clean. "I've already told the police everything I know," Collins said, running a hand through his short brown hair. 5 years ago and again today. "I don't understand why I'm here." "New evidence has come to light," Rivera explained, keeping his expression neutral. "We're re-interviewing everyone connected to Emma's routine that day. I wasn't even at the playground when she disappeared." "No, but she was scheduled for a swimming lesson with you that was canceled. Tell me about your relationship with Emma." Collins shrugged. "Professional, instructor-student. She took my Thursday afternoon class for about 6 months before she disappeared. Good swimmer for her age. Eager to learn." "Did you have any contact with her outside of lessons?" "No, never." Collins leaned forward. "Look, I understand you need to check every angle, but I had 20 other students. I was at the center teaching another class when Emma went missing. Multiple witnesses confirmed that." Rivera nodded. Collins's alibi had indeed been verified during the original investigation. "Tell me about May 17th. What do you remember?" "It was a normal day. I got a call that morning saying Emma wouldn't be at her lesson. I taught my 4:30 class with the other kids. Around 5:15, people started coming and saying a child was missing from the playground. The center went on lockdown while police searched the premises." "Did you participate in the search?" "Of course. Everyone did." Rivera studied Collins, looking for any sign of deception. The swim instructor appeared genuinely confused by the renewed scrutiny. "One more question," Rivera said. "Does the name Sarah Jenkins mean anything to you?" Collins shook his head. "No. Should it?" As Collins left, Detective Chun entered with a folder. "His alibi checks out again," she confirmed. 20 witnesses placed him in the pool area from 4:15 to 5:30. He couldn't have taken Emma. Rivera sighed. "What about the fingerprints from a backpack?" "Not his. Still running through national databases." Another dead end. But someone had taken Emma's backpack and hidden it in that locker. Someone who knew her routine, who had access to the community center, who had been careful enough to use a false identity and leave virtually no trace for 5 years. "Lieutenant," Chin said, interrupting his thoughts, "there's something else. We've been reviewing security footage from nearby businesses on the day Emma disappeared. A camera from the gas station across from the community center caught something interesting." She opened the folder and slid across a grainy image, a still from a security camera showing the community center parking lot. "This is from 4:43 p.m. Look at the silver sedan in the corner." Rivera squinted at the blurry photo. A car was pulling out a lot, and though the image was too unclear to see the driver or license plate, something caught his attention. A small figure in the passenger seat that appeared to be a child. "Could be Emma," Rivera said, his pulse quickening. "Get this enhanced immediately, and check every silver sedan registered in the county in 2018. For the first time in 5 years, Rivera felt they were getting close to the truth. Chapter 5. The revelation of fingerprint analysis finally yielded results. The partial prints from inside Emma's backpack matched a man named Thomas Ward, arrested in Pennsylvania in 2019 for possession of stolen property. Further investigation revealed Ward had worked as a janitor at Millfield Elementary, Emma's school, from 2017 until shortly after her disappearance, when he abruptly left town. "We've got a current address in Philadelphia," Detective Orozco reported. "Local PD is putting eyes on him now. His employment records show he also worked part-time at the community center, filling in occasionally for the regular maintenance staff." Rivera immediately dispatched a team to Philadelphia with a warrant for Ward's arrest. Meanwhile, enhanced security footage from the gas station confirmed what they had suspected. The silver sedan had indeed contained a small passenger resembling Emma, though the driver remained unidentifiable. DMV records showed Ward had owned a silver 2015 Honda Civic during his time in Millfield. The car had been sold in late 2018. Within 24 hours, Thomas Ward was in custody and transported back to Millfield. A search of his Philadelphia apartment yielded no evidence related to Emma, but his behavior, initially combative, then eerily calm, raised immediate red flags. Rivera conducted the interrogation personally, with Detective Chin observing. Ward 47 was thin and balding, with pale blue eyes that rarely maintained contact. "We know you took Emma's backpack," Rivera began. "Your fingerprints are inside it. We know you rented Locker 27 under a false name. What we don't know is why." Ward remained silent, staring at the table. "We have footage of your car leaving the community center parking lot with what appears to be a child in the passenger seat. Where did you take her, Thomas?" Ward's eyes flicked up briefly. "I want a lawyer." "That's your right. But before the lawyer gets here, I want you to understand something." Rivera leaned forward. "We're going to find out what happened to Emma, whether you help us or not. The only question is how much worse it'll be for you if you make us do this the hard way." Ward's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. The interrogation paused while Ward's court-appointed attorney arrived. Rivera used the time to brief Mark and Diane Pearson on the developments. Though divorced, they had arrived together at the station, united by the desperate hope for answers. "We believe Ward took Emma," Rivera explained carefully. "We're building a case against him now, but he's not talking yet." "Why?" Diane asked, her voice breaking. "Why would he take her? Did he or she?" Rivera couldn't offer false hope. "We don't know yet. I promise we're doing everything possible to find out." When the interrogation resumed, Ward's attorney advised him to continue his silence. But as the hours passed and evidence mounted, the fingerprints, the car, his access to both the school and community center, Ward's composure began to crack. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that," he finally said, ignoring his attorney's attempt to silence him. "It was an accident." The air in the room seemed to freeze. Rivera kept his voice steady. "What happened, Thomas?" "She recognized me from school, saw me at the community center when she came looking for her swim instructor." Ward's eyes remained fixed on the table. "She said she was supposed to have a lesson. I told her it was canceled, that I'd take her back to the playground. She came willingly." "But you didn't take her back," Rivera prompted. "I was going to, but in the car, she started asking questions. Why the janitor was driving her, where we were really going." Ward's hands trembled slightly. "She tried to open the door at a stoplight. I grabbed her arm. She hit her head on the window. She just went still." Diane's anguished cry echoed through the observation room. Mark wrapped his arms around his ex-wife as they both collapsed into chairs, the weight of 5 years of uncertainty giving way to an even heavier truth. "What did you do with her?" Rivera asked, fighting to keep his voice level. Ward finally looked up, his pale eyes empty. "There's an abandoned quarry outside town. I panicked. I didn't know what else to do." Chapter 6. The resolution and recovery operation at the quarry took 3 days. Specialized divers searched the murky depths while forensic teams combed the surrounding area. On the 3rd day, they found what they had been searching for: human remains in a weighted tarp at the bottom of the deepest section. DNA testing confirmed what everyone already knew. Emma Pearson had been found. Thomas Ward was charged with kidnapping, involuntary manslaughter, and concealing evidence. Faced with overwhelming proof, he accepted a plea deal that spared him a trial but guaranteed he would spend at least 20 years in prison. The community of Millfield, which had lived under the shadow of Emma's disappearance for 5 years, now faced the grim reality of her death. The playground where she had last been seen playing was temporarily closed, then reopened with a memorial garden in one corner. A small plaque bore her name, her dates, and the words, "Always remembered, forever loved." For the Pearsons, the discovery brought a complicated mixture of devastation and relief. The unbearable hope that had sustained and tormented them for 5 years was gone, replaced by the painful certainty of grief. They could, at last, lay their daughter to rest. Emma's funeral was held on a sunny Saturday, attended by hundreds of community members. Her classmates, now middle schoolers, released purple and green balloons into the sky. Lily, who had made the friendship bracelet that ultimately helped solve the case, placed a new one on Emma's casket. Purple and green threads woven together, a final gift for her friend. Lieutenant Rivera attended the service, standing at a respectful distance from the family. Though the case had reached its resolution, he found little satisfaction in the outcome. A child was still gone, a family still broken, a community still wounded. Justice had been served, but it couldn't bring Emma back. After the funeral, Diane Pearson approached him. "I wanted to thank you," she said quietly, "for never giving up, for finding her." Rivera nodded, words failing him momentarily. "I just wish we could have found her sooner. Found her alive." "I know, but at least now we know. At least now we can—" She paused, searching for words that could possibly encompass moving forward from such a loss. "At least now we can remember her properly, not as missing, but as ours, always ours." In the months that followed, Diane channeled her grief into activism, establishing a foundation that advocated for improved security measures in public spaces and schools. Mark Pearson returned to his work as an architect, designing a children's wing for the hospital in Emma's memory. The community center underwent its planned renovation, with enhanced security features, including comprehensive camera coverage and improved check-in procedures for all visitors. The lockers in the basement were removed entirely, replaced by a modern system requiring electronic identification. And in a quiet corner of Millfield Cemetery, a small headstone marked the resting place of Emma Pearson. Visitors often noticed the colorful friendship bracelets that accumulated there, left by classmates, community members, and others touched by her story. Purple and green threads woven together, symbols of connection that even death couldn't sever. The little girl who vanished from the playground had finally come home. Girl vanished from playground. 5 years later, her bracelet is found in an abandoned locker. Chapter 7. 5 years later, May 17th, 2028. 10 years to the day since Emma disappeared. Lily Chen, now 17, carefully arranged fresh flowers beside Emma's headstone. Purple and green blooms, Emma's favorites, brightened the gray marble that had weathered 5 years of seasons since Emma was finally laid to rest. "I got accepted to UConn," Lily said softly, as if Emma could hear her. "Pre-med, just like we talked about when we were little. Remember how we said we'd be doctors together?" She adjusted the friendship bracelet she wore, purple and green, like the one she'd made for Emma all those years ago. She had made a new one every year on Emma's birthday, keeping the tradition alive even when her friend could not be. Across the cemetery, Lieutenant Rivera, now Captain Rivera, stood beside his car, watching from a distance. He had come every year on this date, a personal ritual of remembrance of the case that had defined his career and changed how Millfield protected its children. The Emma Pearson Safety Initiative had transformed community spaces across the state. Playgrounds now featured enhanced visibility and security cameras. The community center's protocols had become a model for similar facilities nationwide. Schools implemented strict visitor management systems. These changes wouldn't bring Emma back, but they had likely prevented other families from experiencing the same tragedy. As Rivera prepared to leave, he noticed Diane Pearson approaching Lily at the grave. The two embraced, their connection forged in grief but sustained by something stronger. Diane had become a mentor to Lily, encouraging her academic pursuits and including her in the foundation's work. Tyler Pearson, now 13, joined them a moment later. He had been only 4 when his sister disappeared, too young to fully understand what had happened, but he had grown up in the shadow of that loss, shaped by it in ways both visible and invisible. Recently, he had started volunteering with his mother, speaking to other children about safety. Rivera watched the small gathering for a moment longer, then quietly got into his car. Some cases stayed with you forever. Some wounds never fully healed. But life continued, carrying both the sorrow of what was lost and the possibility of what could still be. As he drove away from the cemetery, his phone buzzed with a call from the station. Another case, another child, another family needing answers. The work continued, as it always would. In the rear-view mirror, he could see Diane, Lily, and Tyler walking together toward the cemetery gates. 3 figures united by memory and purpose, moving forward one step at a time. The friendship bracelet that had been found in that abandoned locker had unlocked the truth, allowing Emma to be found and finally laid to rest. But the connections it symbolized, the threads of love, memory, and community, continued to weave through the lives of all those touched by Emma's story. Those threads, like the purple and green bracelet, would never truly break. Emma Pearson's disappearance reminds us that even in safe places, under watchful eyes, tragedy can happen silently. A playground, a bracelet, a little girl full of life, gone in moments. If this story touched you, please watch this video to help raise awareness about Emma and other missing children whose names are disappearing from headlines. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think happened that afternoon in Westlake Park? Have you ever witnessed something suspicious in a public place and dismissed it immediately? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read each one personally, and sometimes your ideas lead to new questions that we'll explore in future episodes. If you haven't already, subscribe to Gone Cold.